So, in response to the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump, there has been new calls for major gun control nationwide, including a ban on so-called assault weapons. Now, really quick before we jump into this video, I want to ask you all for a huge favor. Looking at some of my analytics, about 60% of all my viewers are actually not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to support the channel for free, a free way to do that is simply subscribing, and then just double check because YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Also, I want to thank one of the main supporters of this channel, which is Blackout Coffee. Blackout Coffee makes amazing coffee and they're huge Second Amendment supporters. So if you want to get amazing coffee and also support a company that supports 2A organizations, check out Blackout Coffee. And if you order using the code ARMSCHOLAR, you can get 10% off of your order. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, in this video, we're going to be talking about how the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump is now leading to new calls for national gun control. Now, it's pretty insane to say that there has been 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump, on a candidate who's running for president, on a prior president. It's insane to say that there have now been 2 incidents, direct attempts on his life, but that's where we're currently at. But never let an incident go to waste. The anti-gunners always use every incident they can to push for their gun control, and that's what they're doing once again for this second attempt. There are 3 major things that I'm now seeing circulate online as far as national gun control that's being pushed for in direct response to this incident. Now, it's interesting that this is the incident that they're trying to use to push this agenda, because when you look at the individual involved, at least based on the information we have right now as of me making this video, the individual who made this attempt on Donald Trump clearly had a criminal record, maybe should not have even been in possession of these specific firearms. The specific firearm in question also is not the traditional firearm that you would see involved in these types of incidents, and then also not the type of rhetoric you would usually see come out of the anti-gunners, and then just also some of the other situations involved with this incident. But regardless, like I mentioned, the anti-gunners will use every incident that they can to push their agenda, and that's exactly what they're doing. So the first thing that I'm seeing that is probably going to be in response to this and the things that they're calling for, of course, is a national ban on so-called assault weapons. They are once again pushing for a national bill to be passed in Congress that would ban these types of semi-automatic rifles. Now, I've seen multiple reports on the specific weapon involved. Some people are saying it's an AK, some people are saying maybe it's an SKS or other things like that. I'm sure as more information trickles in, we'll have a better insight on exactly what weapon was used, similar to the first assassination attempt where people were originally reporting that it was a DPMS and then it ended up being a different brand. But, you know, traditionally, that's what happens. They just use a photo grab and then they say, you know what, this was a semi-automatic rifle or a so-called assault weapon, and therefore we need a national ban on those weapons. And what we saw with the first incident is we saw a new reintroduction of the Go Safe Act. And I think that's what they're going to do here as well. They'll probably push harder for the Go Safe Act to be passed. Now, if you're not familiar with what the Go Safe Act is, it is the gas-operated semi-automatic firearm exclusion act, I believe. That's what the long acronym of it, but it's a Go Safe Act is what they call it. And simply, it's a nationwide ban on all semi-automatic rifles. They have language in there where they would ban the future sale and the future transfer of any semi-automatic rifle. So any rifle like an AR, AK, or any variant would be banned. They have a grandfather provision in that as well. And they also included, I believe, a magazine ban in that language. That was introduced, I believe, back in 2023 originally. It was reintroduced in 2024 in both the House and the Senate. And most recently, it was reintroduced after the first assassination attempt. And now I'm seeing calls once again for a larger push on the Go Safe Act. Now, again, what's interesting with a push for a ban on so-called assault weapons nationwide is the specific firearm used in this incident really doesn't fit the traditional narrative that they like to push. The first one, of course, since it was an AR-15, they ran with that very hard. This one, of course, because it's a different variant of a semi-automatic rifle, they're kind of changing their narrative a little bit. I see a lot of the left-leaning media just saying it's an AK-47 because, you know, those are the scary guns that are used in Hollywood. So they're running with that narrative about it being that specific firearm, even though I do not think that that's what it was based on the pictures that I'm seeing. But again, they're pushing for the Go Safe Act. They're pushing for a new national ban on so-called assault weapons or these rifle bans nationwide. And they also forget the fact that we've seen these types of rifle bans play out in other states like California, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, and others. And in no way has a rifle ban, even at a national level, because we had a national rifle ban, Did we see any decrease in crime? And it's also interesting because this isn't just a general incident. This is an attempt on a president's life, on a former president's life, on a president nominee's life. And it's just interesting that this is the narrative they're running with, which is gun control. That is the solution to this problem, not all the other insane rhetoric that's currently going on in our nation revolving around the election. Now, the second major thing that I'm seeing playing out right now as far as a narrative that's being run in response to the second assassination attempt is a call for increases on red flag laws and potentially a red flag law nationwide. Now, what's interesting about this one is when we're getting information trickling in about this specific individual, it appears that he had a very clear criminal record, that he was not supposed to be in possession of these firearms anyways, regardless. But somehow you have the anti-gunner saying that a red flag law or universal background checks and all these other things that they're pushing for, somehow that would have resolved this issue. Again, sidestepping what is really happening here, where you have an insane individual who made an attempt on President Trump. They're completely ignoring that and then going once again to blaming the item, blaming the firearm, not the individual, and then just not taking a larger look about what is going on in our society right now that is leading to the second time someone trying to shoot Donald Trump. Now, the third thing that I'm seeing kind of trickle in already because of one of these specific items that was involved in this incident is I've seen some people mentioning that the individual here had ceramic plates. That's popped up multiple times in some of these reports. I'm assuming maybe it was a ceramic body armor plate that he was trying to use for protection. Again, we don't have a lot of information right now as of me filming this because it just happened yesterday. But I've seen some people pushing for now calls for why are these types of ceramic body armors, why is body armor in general available to the national public, that nobody needs body armor, so we need to ban these items. We've seen various pushes in the past for a nationwide ban on body armor. There have been various bills that have been introduced in the past. And then we've seen states specifically target body armor as well. States like New York, even California was bouncing around a body armor ban in the past. And then now it's interesting because of this specific incident and some of the language popping up about a ceramic plate being involved or some sort of body armor potentially being involved with this incident. Now you've seen anti-gunners and some of these people on the left calling for, well, nobody needs body armor. It is not protected by the Second Amendment according to the lefties, and so we want a ban on those items nationwide. Now, in all reality, we know if you look at the text of the Second Amendment or even just Supreme Court precedent, body armor is clearly protected by the Second Amendment. It is a type of arm, and an arm has been defined as anything that one can use to cast at someone else or take upon themselves for defense. And body armor is clearly something that you can take upon yourself for passive defense. That's the whole purpose of body armor. And that's why we all own it. I have body armor just sitting right back there, but the anti-gunners are going to try to leverage the situation to ban those items, and we're already seeing that narrative being spun up. Now, I will mention also kind of an honorable mention, something that I'm also seeing slowly trickle into the narrative, and it really doesn't involve, I don't think specifically this incident, but it was something that was a large part of the first attempt, and that is in some ways trying to hold the manufacturers or firearms companies themselves liable for these types of incidents. We've seen a larger push, especially on the anti-gun side, for attacks on gun manufacturers and various manufacturers. And what the anti-gun side wants to do is pierce the PLCAA. And the PLCAA, if you're not familiar, is the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. It's a federal law which protects firearms companies and gun manufacturers from being held liable for third-party criminal activity. So just because someone commits a crime with an item, they can't then, or a victim of that individual who commits the crime cannot then sue a gun manufacturer and try to hold that manufacturer liable. There are, of course, nuances to the PLCAA where if the company itself has a defective product or there's something wrong with their product, they can be sued for that. But for third-party criminal activity, they cannot be held liable. But we've seen this play out multiple times now where after incidents, manufacturers like Daniel Defense, Smith & Wesson, and others have been sued, and there have been various plaintiffs who are trying to hold them liable for these types of activity. So those are some of the major things that I'm now seeing spin up in result to the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. We're in a very interesting situation right now in our nation. And I think the discussion about gun control is going to get pushed even more and more as we're leading into this election. I just want to let you guys know about some of the rumblings that I'm seeing now play out in direct response to this incident. And if anything else changes, if new bills and all that are introduced, I will let you guys know. So if you guys like this video and you would like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that is to like, comment, and subscribe. All those things help to fuel the algorithm, and it signals to YouTube that you guys see value in these videos and in this type of 2A news. But as always, thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and never forget this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.